Although I am involved with CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada, the views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the participants and do not reflect those of CADAC. And now, cue the music.
This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Hey there, it's Andre here with another short for the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, the podcast for the high-achieving ADHD entrepreneur. This episode is brought to you by CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada. You can get more information and you can donate at www.caddac.ca. This week I talked to my friend Chuck Inglefield about his depression and his recovery and his continuing struggle with depression. If you didn't listen to it, it's a fantastic episode, and it's part one. And next week, we're going to talk a little more about the entrepreneurial effects and how the entrepreneur mindset can affect depression and you're wanting to get help. But anyways, like this one here, I can tell you, Chuck is no longer the same person he was a few years ago. And his transformation was tremendous. And at the same time, even though he has admitted he understands that depression will never go away as a part of him, he's taken ownership for him. And I'm so proud to know him that he's taken an active role in his recovery. And at the same time, how he explained that his support structure was really important for him for his success. And he is happier now, and he's now setting, again, long-term goals. And I'm really proud of him, and I'm very fortunate to have him on the podcast to discuss this, because I thought it was a great conversation to have so people can raise their awareness either about themselves or even for others. And I have a lot more respect for him because he's also advocating and not afraid to speak up about it. And we need people like Chuck to speak up, because I know people listening, people he's talked to have taken an active role to do something about it. And I'm proud to know that man. Anyways, I didn't mean anyways, and that is dismissive, but I'm on a timeline here, time restriction, so I'll get going. The one thing he said this week that really stuck to me was being a high-functioning depressive. And his therapist looked at him and said, "You don't have to be." Yet many of us continue to suffer, be it with depression, be it with even ADHD pushing through. Even though we're high functioning, we don't have to be to keep pushing through all the negative or overworking or doing things. So that hit me a lot because of my high functioning ADHD and autism. I think we continue to suffer. Like there's a term he said, we continue to suffer because one way I think we're wired for it as an entrepreneur. And the other thing too is I think it's also because it's habitual, because we made it work somehow to overcome our challenges, and we are successful. So we just continue. We just keep barreling through. And I think it's just in our DNA to a certain extent to just keep pushing through, especially a high achiever, set goals, achieve the goals, you set new ones. And then our ADHD, it's all or nothing. It's all, right? But at the same time, when we do this and we continue and push through, what we're actually doing, I think, is we're juggling many houses of cards that we will drop sometime and it will all fall apart. And depending on where you are or where I am, like if it would have been 5 years ago, actually it was 5 years ago, it was catastrophic. Right now, I'm not juggling houses of cards now. I'm actually just juggling balls. So I will drop them, but it won't be as catastrophic. We have an inner drive to get pushing through, to push through, just like Coach on Cheers, like he said, there's only one way to get through hell, and that's just keep going. And it's almost as if that's really ingrained with us, and we just keep pushing through. So I'm not sure if that is an ADHD thing, a societal norms and myths thing, or just due to negative trauma from our childhood and adulthood that we just keep pushing through and fighting. But like Chuck noted from his therapist, that changed his view was you don't have to be. And that's a conscious decision. Chuck made a conscious decision to stop being a high functioning depressive person. Just like I think I did, is I decided to stop being a high functioning ADHD person working in the wrong directions outside of my strengths. And same thing with the autism side. The point I'm trying to make here is to stop being high functioning and to continue to push through mental health challenges because you can and that you should. Being depressed is not fun. I have experienced it and it is not fun. Pushing through yourself to exhaustion to prove to others that you can do things you are not good at, is also not a good thing to do. It's disruptive to your mental health. It affects how you interact with people. And it's not, the mental health is kind of challenging here because it's always about how, usually when you're dealing with treatment or people, it always affects other people. But deep down inside, your mental health, if you're not taking care of your mental health, you're not having a good relationship with yourself. And I'm starting to believe, like a lot of people say, no, I know this for a fact. For the longest time, I never loved myself, so I never believed that others could love me. But that has to do with a lot of the mental health issues, me ignoring that. So long and short of it here is stop being a high-functioning depressive, stop being a high-functioning ADHD person, stop being a high-functioning autistic person, stop being a high-functioning anxious person. And by that, what I mean, stop being a high-functioning, fill in the blank here, is that we're doing it on the negative side that's affecting our mental health, and we're not treating the mental health conditions. And yes, I'm not liking the term of ADHD and autism being a mental health, but us forcing ourselves in the society square peg hole where we're a round peg has negative effects on our mental health, and that's where I'm tying it to. So please get help. It was a tough pill to swallow for me. Pretty sure, I'm not going to speak for Chuck, but I'm going to make an assumption it was very difficult for him to make that decision to get help. It's not an easy thing to admit that you need help, especially in the times in society where getting mental health is show a sign of weakness. You're not a good person, or you're not good enough. You're weak. And it's not weak. I find the people who are strongest are dealing with their mental health. They're dealing with the tough conversations you have in therapy. They're getting over childhood trauma, which I'm starting to realize every challenges every adult has is tied back to their childhood somehow, and we need to deal with it, rectify it, and come to terms with it. So I'm going to finish off with this. Everyone says, you got to take care of your physical self, stay in health. Your health is important. They're always talking about the physical health. They're always talking about their internal health. But they always seem to forget about the mental health. And I'm saying, take care of your mental health first, because you do not understand how much your brain controls your physical body. So if your mental health is not 100%, your physical body is not 100%. There's nothing to be ashamed of to get help. You're a strong person if you're deciding to get help. It's not easy work, but it's rewarding. And unfortunately, it takes time. So our ADHD brain, our impatience are going to kick in, but it takes time. So please get help. It doesn't hurt you. It only supports you and builds your self-esteem again. It makes you like yourself again. I'm repeating myself. I apologize for this, but I was really intrigued with this conversation with Chuck. I'm very fortunate that we had this. And please join us for part 2 next week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.